Hey, what's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? All right, back with another one. Back with another one. Back with another one. That sound all right? Mic check. All right. Okay, we're talking about capitalism. This is one of our political system, world political system series. So we're going to speak on it in many words. So we're going to dive into capitalism. Talking about capital over here. We're talking about a little bit of the money system and things like that. Political world systems. The PWSs again. So we're gonna make this. Can I make this what educational? Okay. And let's see the educational, political world systems. Yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow. Y'all gonna be tripping. Okay. So we're talking about capitalism. This is one I've delved in the most. I haven't delved in this topic for a minute. I think it's one of the interesting topics that we're talking about. And I think one reasons why I don't get into it that much, but as I was saying, it's one of those topics you can be like, all right, this is it. So we're gonna get into it with the actual capitalism and things like that. So in the philosophy streams, I'm gonna read this off to you, and I'm gonna show you the screenshot in a minute. Hold on, I'll show you all the screenshot. Let's get this underway. So we're gonna do this right now. Right now, we're gonna do this right now. So as you can tell, we got the philosophy basics as usual, but we're gonna go in depth on the rest of capitalism as you know it. Yeah, capitalism. We're gonna go into it. Talk about a little bit of economics, and we won't read some things. Okay, let's read this part right here. Okay, capitalism is the economic social system, also mode of production, which the means of production are predominantly privately owned and operated for profit. Distribution exchanges is mainly market economy. It is usually considered to involve the right of individuals, corporations to the trade using money in goods, service, labor, and land. That's the introduction that you read this part. We're going to read the next part, and it's going to say some form of capitalism has been dominated in the Western world since the end of feudalism in the Middle Ages, has provided the main, although not exclusive, means of industrialization throughout much of the world. The rise to prominence sprang out of the Mercantilism of the 16th to 18th centuries and followed the rise of liberalism and laissez-faire economics in Western society. Capitalism mode of production, however, may exist within society's differing state systems, liberal democracy, fascism, and different social structures. In Marxism terms, the owners of capital are the dominant capitalist class or the bourgeois. We talked about Marxism before, political war systems. We're going to talk about that eventually. It's by Karl Marx. And the working class or the proletariat who do not own the capital must live by selling their labor power in exchange for a wage. Thus, according to Karl Marx, capitalism is based on the exploitation of workers by owners of capital and under history theory of historical materialism. Represented just one of the stages in the evolution of society with which would be overthrown as the workers gain class and conscience and the take of control over the state. As you can hear the introduction, your typical, and we're going to talk about the 16th and 18th century. This is after the Renaissance period. This is kind of like, so the 18th century will be like the 1700s. The 17th century would be the 1600s, 1500s, 16th century. This is probably during the Renaissance period. I'll say the tail end of the Renaissance period is probably 15 to 16th century Renaissance period. I think of those periods in the end of the 16th century, and then you get to the harsh of the tail end when they go to the West Indies and things like that. So this is right around the time when the Buccaneers and which you'll say pirates in the Caribbean kind of dominate the trade of capitalism, and then they use slavery and things like that. But that's a whole nother story. And so I'm going to touch on that a little bit. Normally, you see that's what built it and things like that nature. So, and that's a whole nother discussion on that. But for now, it's one of those reasons that it varies. So again, I think capitalism is one of those things that you can just delve into in many words and many facets. So I think the time is when people talk about capitalism in its purest form, you have to go by those centuries. And I know exactly what they're talking about. This is for Karl Marx. So the 1700s, capitalism is huge and things like that, but it's around a long time. So we're going to get into the history of it in a minute. We're going to get adjusted in a couple of minutes. And yeah, capitalism is one of the ones I need to touch on more. They mentioned this utilitarian guy again, John Stuart Mill, John Locke, like we always said in these ideology exercises that we expound on. So let's read this part. Although some features of capitalist organization existed in the ancient world, the early Roman Empire, which is factual, the medieval caliphate in the Middle Ages, in the Middle East, they would say, no such thing as the Middle East. That's what they call it. It's actually in the Eastern, connect, but I ain't gonna get into details on that. I think I can do the dark history one, talk about and show you evidence of things like that. Capitalist economic practice become institutionalized in England between 16th and 19th centuries. Then the spread throughout Europe and across political and cultural frontiers. With the emergence of modern nation states in the 16th to the 18th centuries, mercantilism, the economic theory that the prosperity of nations depends upon its capital or economic assets as represented by the gold and silver, and that the volume of the world economy and the international trade is unchangeable, encouraging a protectionist role for government, became dominant in Europe. But the classical tradition in capitalist economic thought emerged in Britain in the late 18th century with Adam Smith, David Ricardo, 1772, 1823, and John Stuart Mill, the utilitarian philosopher himself, as well with John Baptiste Say, 1767, 1832 in France, or they pronounce it France. And important to contributions into the theory of property are found in the early work of John Locke, who had argued that the right to the private property is a natural right. Okay. So then we got Adam Smith. Criticism of the mercantilized system in his Wealth of Nations of 1776, that's America they talking about, is often considered the beginning of the classical political economy. Smith devised a set of concepts that remain strongly associated with capitalism today, particularly his theory of this invisible hand of the market through which pursuit of individual self-interest unintentionally produce a collective good for society. He criticized monopolies, tariffs, duties, and other state-enforced restrictions of his time. He believed that the market most fair and efficient arbitrator of resources. David Ricardo, one of the most influential economists of modern times, developed the law comparative advantage, which explains how trade can benefit all parties involved as long as they produce goods with different relative costs. In the principles of political economic taxation of 1817, which supports the economic case for free trade, a cornerstone of capitalist thinking. He has also argued that the inflation is closely related to changes in the quantity of money and credit. Expand on Say's law of the full employment in the competitive economy and ascribe to the law of diminishing returns, which states that each additional unit of input yields less and less additional output. All essential building blocks in the theory of capitalism. In the wake of industrialization, the repeal restrictive laws, the teachings of Smith, Ricardo laissez-faire capitalism gained favor over mercantilism in Britain. In the mid 19th century, and it embraced liberalism, competition, and the development of the market economy, from where it's rapidly spread throughout much of the Western world. In the late 19th century, the control of the direction of the large areas in the industry came into the hands of financiers, and the process of production became subordinate to the accumulation of money profits in a financial system, sometimes known as finance capitalism. Late 19th century and the early 20th century, capitalism was marked by the concentration of capital into large monopolistic or oligopolistic holdings by banks and financiers, and by the growth of large corporations, which is facts. During the late 19th century and the 20th century, capitalism is a self-opposition to the rise of socialist, Marxist, and communist thought, to the whole concept of centrally planned economies. But by the end of the 19th century, economic depression and boom and bust business cycles had become a recurring problem. In particular, the long depression of the 1870s, 1880s, and the Great Depressions of the 1930s affected almost the entire capitalist world. In response, the state began to play an increasingly prominent role in the capitalistic system throughout much of the world, exemplified by the New Deal of the American president Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1882-1945. Mixed economies containing both privately owned state-owned enterprises with a mix of the market of economy and planned economy characteristics, and the interventionist Keynesian economics of the British economist John Maynard Keynes, 1883-1946, became the norm. After the long post-war boom, during which the Keynesian state capitalist was the ascended, a new push towards the laissez-faire capitalism and the classical liberalism was led by the economist Friedrich Hayek, 1899-1992. We mentioned him before in previous streams. Milton Friedman, another one we mentioned, 1912-2006. Championed by conservative leaders like Ronald Reagan, 1911-2004. And Margaret Thatcher, 1925-2013, in the 1970s. Here you go. That's the history of it. And we talked about it so much in posts. A lot of times people talk about capitalism and you think about these individuals. And yeah, this is one of the things that you see that we discuss in public or in barbershops, and people talk about capitalism in its purest form. And it's just what it is. And I'm just saying, like, in so many words, you just hear, what's going on, Mike V? Salute, salute. And it is what it is. And I think when you talk about it in its form, you understand what's going on, and at its higher numbers. So that's just what it is. And when you talk about it, we talk about this a lot on the channel, and I'm just like, yeah, that's just one thing. One thing you could say is so much knowledge going on. And I think capitalism is much needed, like in certain situations. I mean, it ain't a perfect system, but I'm just saying most people like it. I'm like up and down with it. But I realized if you have a society like this is a system that most people know anyway, and they deal with it and they compete with each other. So we're dealing with the history, but you know, we get the pros and cons of it later. So, by the way, some people just gonna look at it differently than others. It's just what it is. I think most people just gotta look and understand that all people have their preferences. So I'm just saying it like this. When you deal with capitalism at its purest form, it goes back to the centuries we studied in history, and it repeats itself. Some countries want that type of system, and it changes their lives. It just really does. It really does, because it shows where people stand at. And like I said, man, one things I love about talking about this subject, it breaks down where people stand. And you know, capitalism, I've heard positives and negatives about it. You know, there's pros and cons in every system, so no system is perfect. I've yet to see one historically, and we gotta get away from that. So most people got to understand that that's the stuff we're living in, and people don't talk about capitalism as much now. I mean, they use it as a reference. Most people don't really care for it, and I don't think it really exists nowadays. I mean, it had its time in the 20th century. 21st century, you don't really see that. I think socialism and other things kind of took over, so that's a whole nother story. Well, I'll do a part 2 to this and explain what capitalism means. So normally it's just what it is. Okay, capitalism has met with strong opposition throughout its history, both from the left and to the right. The free market property rights, the criticism of capitalism. So here we go. Property rights. Okay, the anarchist Pierre Joseph Proudhon, we mentioned him before on the channel, 1809, 1865. And the Marxist Frederick Engels, we mentioned him as well, 1820, 1895, have argued that the free market, it is not necessarily free, but way towards those who already own property, forcing those without property to sell their labor to capitalists and landlords in a market favorable in the latter and to acceptable low wages in order to survive. Market failures, the accumulation of goods and service by a free market is not efficient as it might due to the lack of the perfect information, perfect competition. Individuals in pursuit of self-interest can lead bad results to bad results. Sorry, I stumbled that. Okay, to bad results for society as a whole. It is argued that it is a certain other unique problems with the free market, including monopolies and monos, yeah, symphonies or something like that. Monosymphonies, monopolies, symphonies. Okay, insider trading and price gouging are grounds for government intervention. Okay, so you got market instability. Marxists claim that the Marxist instability is a permanent feature of capitalist economy, but that the unplanned, the explosive growth of capitalism does not occur in smoother manner, but it is interrupted by periods overproduction in which stagnation or decline occur. Recessions and depressions, i.e., recessions and depressions, they mentioned. Okay, cool. Profits, exploitation. Critics of capitalism view the system is inherently exploitive because of the owners of capital and only pay labor for the cost of survival, food, shelter, and clothing, etc. With the exploiting the excesses of surplus value, since capitalists control the means of production, factories, business, and machinery, and the workers control only their labor. The worker is naturally coerced into allowing their labor to be exploited. It is not paid according to the true worth of his labor, but arbitrarily according to what the employer is willing to pay. Okay, so we got that. Inefficiency and waste. Some opponents criticize the shift from pre-industrial reuse and thriftness before capitalism to a consumer-based economy that pushes ready-made materials and planned obsolescence, and thus creating a potentially insoluble ecological problem. But advertising marketing are also seen as wasteful use of resources, and brand-based marketing puts more emphasis on the company's name brand than on the quality of the products. Unequal distribution of the wealth and income, some view as significantly. Unequal distribution of the wealth and income. Okay, I'll read that from the top again. So we're going by unequal distribution of the wealth and income. Okay, so some of the view a significant disparity and concentration of the wealth to be a problem, but endemic to capitalism argued that this is an inequality is excessive, unfair, dysfunctional, or even immoral, may lead to social problems such as higher crime rates, the affect both poor and rich. It is further argued that the capitalist system may also have inherent biases favoring those who have already possessed greater resources, that the wealthy may not put their wealth to productive use, while at the same time the system undermines an economy's mass buying power by denying resources to poorer people who have a tendency to spend rather than save. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so employment and unemployment. Some economists consider then a certain level of unemployment is necessarily for the proper functioning of capitalist economics. Economies. And that is a natural rate of unemployment highlights the inefficiencies of the capitalist economy, since not all its resources, human labor, are being allocated efficiently. Imperialism and human rights violations. Some argue that capitalism thrives on uneven and exploitative relationships between wealthy nations who force regime or system changes in poor countries, which are only beneficial to them, often through exploitative wars. Dependencies theory holds a resource flow from a periphery of poor and underdeveloped states to the core wealthy states, enriching the latter at the expense of the former. Marxists, particularly Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, 1870 to 1924, argued that capitalism needs imperialism in order to survive, as it expands its oversaturated local markets into and drains the resources out of other less developed nations. And here comes democracy. Some critics have argued that capitalist system can be undemocratic, although capitalism as an economic system is not necessarily tied to democracy. Off-sided examples include people not being able to criticize their boss out of the risk of getting fired, not being able to express their opinions due to the lack of the funds to afford access to media. That's very true, really. That's factual. Economic freedom. There has been criticized of usual measures of economic freedom, which are often used to justify capitalism. If economic freedom is to include the freedom to have meaningful decision making, control over productive resources, then it is argued that it's of various points and mentioned above actual result and reduce, not increase, economic freedom. Okay, and we got sustainability in the environment. Some questions to the continued sustainability of an economic system that is insist on continued strong economic growth requires increasingly greater amounts of natural resources and energy, promotes environmentally irresponsible consumption and production, arguing that many aspects of the environment have been severely degraded since the Industrial Revolution. The globalization of production, which is an integral part of the functioning of modern capitalism, also produces significance in pollution and waste of resources. So we're talking about the sustainability in the environment. Okay. Religious criticism. Some religions criticize or outright reject capitalism. E.g., Islam strongly forbids usury and then lending of a money at an interest. Some Christians have strongly criticized capitalism, particularly its materialistic aspects. The early socialists drew many of their principles from Christian values, opposed to be the bourgeois values of profiting and greed, selfishness, and hoarding. Some are unfettered capitalists at the threat of the cultural and religious traditions. So this is capitalism based off its ideology and philosophy and things like that. So we're going to get it and we just look at it for what it is. And we're just going to get into it. And it talks about things like that. So I'm going to drop y'all the link to the philosophy basics. We're going to get into the base of this. So that's capitalism, what I was reading. And I'm going to put this in the chat, so many words to it, and expound it on. So, and it is what it is. So we'll get right into it. So we're gonna mount it off, whatever. So yeah. So we're gonna stop the screen share for a minute. We're gonna put it up here. We're gonna be right back. So basically, when you talk about capitalism in its forms and arguments and things like that. So I don't know if I can make the screen bigger. So we got this right here. So let me let me draw this out. Let me see if I can make it bigger. I don't know if I can or no, it just takes me out of the screen. Damn. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay. Nah, I can't even do that. I wish they had like a thing you can just but I'll read it off to you if y'all can't really see it. I'll give y'all the link in a minute. It's invest Investopedia. Okay. How the United States impacts the economy. Okay. Is United States a market economy or mixed economy? United States has a mixed economy. It works according to the economic system. The features characteristics both capitalism and socialism. A mixed economic system protects some private property and allows a level of economic freedom in the use of capital, but also allows the governments to intervene in economic activities in order to achieve social aims and for the public good. Okay. So the key takeaways: the United States is a mixed economy exhibiting the characteristics of both capitalism and socialism. Such a mixed economy embraces economic freedom. And when it comes to capital use, but it also allows for government intervention for public good. The United States government controls the part of the economy with the restrictions and licensing requirements, which includes involvement in such areas such as education, courts, roads, and hospital care, and postal delivery. The government's role in mixed economy and can also include financial policies such as monetary and physical policies. So that's the key takeaway. So the key takeaway is such as a mixed economy embraces economic freedom when it comes to capital use, but it also allows for government intervention for the public good. And the other says the United States is a mixed economy exhibiting characteristics of both capitalist and socialism. Okay, and then I'll probably read this. How is the United States government impacts economy? United States government has always played a role in the economic affairs of the nation. Over the course of its history, many services began to come under the influence or direct control of the public sector. There is some periods in the United States history, however, it was close to the true free market economy, in which the private sector or individuals is unfettered in its economic behavior and actions and decisions. A true or absolute free market economy requires that all property be owned by private individuals and all goods and services be privately owned. I mean, privately provided. Privately provided. Prices are allowed to fluctuate based on supply and demand, and all the transactions are voluntarily not compelled or restricted by government by the government. Okay, this system is also referred to as pure capitalism or laissez-faire capitalism. Conversely, a mixed economy system has elements of both free markets and centrally planned economic controls by the government. There are several different ways that the market economies are changed in a mixed economy. Governments might place regulatory restrictions on voluntary transactions in the private market. Private establishments might require government to grant licenses to perform certain activities. Some activities might be banned altogether. Governments might also own public property or provide public services, use tax policies or subsidies to change the price signals in the market. In a mixed economy, many private transactions are allowable, but only under the conditions subject to the government's goals. So that's United States government impacts economy. So we're talking about capitalism right here. Okay. Elements of a mixed economy. Okay. United States government controls a partially controls many goods or services such as education, courts, roads, hospital care, and postal delivery. It also provides subsidies to the agricultural producers, oil companies, and financial companies, and utility firms. For example, private individuals cannot legally provide or purchase certain types of goods, such as cocaine, haggis, raw milk in some states, and the most types of types of flavored cigarettes other products face heavy taxations to discourage their use. In the United States, private business need to register with government agencies, and many types of professionals can only operate with government approved licenses, including funeral attendants, auctioneers, private investigators and makeup artists and hairstylists, real estate agents, and financial advisors. Nearly even the type of the business, every form of the economic exchange is affected by government policies in the United States. The Food Drug Administration, FDA, must approve consumable foods and medicines before they can be sold and requires producers to provide very specific disclaimers. Business can only advertise their goods and service if they comply with the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, the higher compensations and firing, and employers must comply with the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, the ERISA, and may other regulations from agencies such as the Department of Labor, the DLO, the DOL. Okay, the important United States keeps partial control over the economy with regulatory restrictions such as listening or banning certain activities. Financial policies. The United States government also plays a role economy and financial policies that can influence the inflation, business, and production. In the Federal Reserve, it is charged with controlling the monetary policies, which has to do with the quantity of velocity and availability of the circulating the money supply. And Congress and the executive branch handle the physical policies, which focus on government revenue and spending. Expansionary monetary policy aims to inject the liquidity of stimulate lending and spending and discourage savings, and contractory policies is supposed to reduce aggregated demand to encourage savings and slow down the rate of inflation or burst assets of bubbles. If the expansionary policies is analogies to pursue on the gas pedal, then the contradictionary policies is stepping on the brakes. So that's the financial policies. Okay. So the bottom line. So let's read the bottom line. Okay, the bottom line, the list of laws, regulations, and other impediments in completely voluntary transactions in the economy is kind of long in the Federal Register of the United States. And this public sector has, in fact, enormous impact on American economy. Hire pro, compare 3 financial advisors near you. That's what they say. First you need and this and that. We ain't gonna get into that. So that is the Investopedia. We talk about it as a mixed economy. I just gonna drop the link for you guys. The ones is new, they can read what I'm saying. So I'm just gonna put this in here. And that's just basically what I'm saying in so many words. So we're 33 minutes in. So we're in here. It is a mixed economy and things like that nature. So we're gonna be here for a while. So it is what it is. Okay. Greetings, Shar. Greetings. So when we talk about economics in here, so yeah, so we're talking about economics here. So that was by Michael Bowl and things like that. And they talk about the examples of capitalism. Let me see right here. And we're going to right here. Oh, we got graphs. Okay, this is really good. Okay, how much we got? We got 34 minutes. Oh fuck. What is this? Oh man, no, we don't. No, we don't. Let's see if this is gonna work. This is nice shit. They want you to free email and shit. The fuck. Okay. They got conclusions and things like that. So I know this was popping like that. Okay. Let's see this right quick. Let's stay on it. Capitalism definition examples. Okay, we're gonna read this. This is by Wall Street Mojo. Capitalism is an economic system which factors production such as capital goods, natural resources, like we just read for the philosophy. Labor and entrepreneurship are owned by private individuals or business. Capitalism requires that the government follow a laissez-faire policies that should not intervene in economic matters. That's it. Economic matters. Yeah, economic matters. In capitalist market economy, investment and decision making are ascertained by wealth owners, and capitalists involves the free operation of the capital markets where the laws of demand and supply set the prices of bonds, stocks, currencies, commodities. This article will discuss some examples of capitalism to understand in depth. Okay, capitalism examples. Factors of production. Capital goods. I might put this in the oh shit. Here we go again with the bullshit. Okay, hold on, y'all. I don't have to skim through this shit. I'll solve it later. Yeah, I might have to do email check on that. I'm gonna have to solve that later. I'm gonna get another bundle. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to do that right now because I'm not dealing with that all night. Yeah, we're gonna deal with that shit. So I can read this shit. This is important. And give y'all this link because they get on my nerves on this shit. Okay. They trying to hit me with that shit. Y'all give me a second because I'm trying to see this shit solved in. I'm gonna see what this is about. I don't have to fight it. Oh hell no. No, y'all want too much. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna skim through if it does that. I won't have to play with it because I can't step away because this damn article gets on my nerves. Shit. Remove. I don't need you. You're a hassle. So, examples of capitalism following the United States of America. One of the most countries follow capitalism. So they said Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Facebook. Okay. Thus, the federal government does not own these corporations. Capitalism has unleashed product energy and people of the country playing a crucial role in the United States being recognized as a superpower. That's one example. We'll read the rest because the stain will jump on me. And the other example is creative destruction involves conventional institutions giving away to a newer, better, and more efficient practices and organizations. It's another one. Like Eatman, Kodak Photography. Yeah. 1991, they mentioned the TCS, HL technologies and stuff like that. Yeah, I remember that as a kid. They talk about shit like that in school. We used to read about that in fourth and fifth grade when it got me into history and things like that and economics. I got into that sixth grade and the rest of it in high school. Yeah, because we grew up in the midst of that. Because if you want jobs one day, you did. They were coming to our schools and shit. Conclusion: the world in general has moved to the direction of capitalism in the last few decades. Capitalism is the most prominent in our current global economic system in aspects where individuals privately own the production. And the government has limited interference. Capitalism has given people liberty and the incentive to be more productive. On the other hand, it has several drawbacks like creating monopolies, eradicating property, income inequality, and market instability, etc. Many critics point out that this system does not have a heart. However, the problems of capitalism can be overcome by a balanced approach. That is very true. And they're talking about utilitarianism and things like that. The only reason you can have that approach is we're gonna go back to it. I won't give y'all the link because I had to skim through because this thing will jump because they want you to sign up and shit over a damn book. I don't like shit like that because normally they do that to get on my nerves. So yeah, because I have to, things like that. What's going on? Psycho Candy, salute, man, salute. This shit be jumping like a motherfucker, man. And yeah, this shit be jumping. Yeah. So and oh, free access. Yeah. Okay, so free access. I'll deal with that later. That sounds like a good graph, but it's one of those things. But yeah, we look at that part as well. That's a good article too. American capitalism in general. This is 2015. Um, International Money Fund. And you talk about capitalism and things like that. So we're gonna get into this real quick. I'll have to step away, y'all. I'll be right back. Just give me about 2 minutes, and I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, back at it again. So we got IMF.org. It talks about finance and development. Back to the basics. What is capitalism? Again, like we always mention, yeah, and it's often an economic system which private sectors owned by controlled property in accord with their interests and demand and supply freestyle set prices in the markets in the way they can serve the best interests of society. The essential feature of capitalism is the motive to make a profit. As Adam Smith, the 18th century philosopher and father of modern economics, we just read him from the Philosophy Basics, and said it's not from the benevolence of the butcher and the brewer on the baker that we expect our dinner, but from the regard to their own interests. Both parties to voluntarily exchange transactions have their own interests in the outcome, but neither can be obtained what he or she wants without addressing what the others want. It is the rational self-interest that can lead to economic prosperity. Okay. In capitalist economy, capital assets such as factories, mines, and railroads can be privately owned and controlled. Labor is purchased for money wages. Capital gains occur to private owners, and prices allocate capital and labor between competing and use. See supply and demand in the June 2010 F&D. Although some forms of capitalism is basis for nearly all economies today. For much of the last century, it was it was but one of the two major approaches to economic organizations. And the other is socialism, and the state owns the means of production, and the state owns enterprises seek to maximize social good rather than profits. So that's capitalism. But here's the pillars of capitalism. So we're going to talk about the pillars of capitalism. Capitalism is founded on the following pillars: privately property, which allows people to own tangible assets such as land and houses, and intangible assets such as stocks and bonds, which is facts. Self-interest, through which people are pursuit of their own good without regard of social political pressure. Nonetheless, these uncoordinated individuals ended up benefiting the society as if Smith's 1776 wealth of nations. They were guided by an invisible hand. Competition, through firms' freedom to enter the exit markets, maximize social welfare. That is the joint welfare of both producers and consumers. And the next part, a market mechanism that determines prices in a decentralized manner through the interactions between buyers and sellers. Prices in return allocate resources which naturally seek the highest reward, not only for goods, but service, but for wages as well. Next part, freedom to choose with respect to consumption, production, and investment. Dissatisfied customers can only, I mean, dissatisfied customers can buy different products. Investors can pursue more lucrative ventures. Workers can leave their jobs for better pay. And the last part, limited role government to protect the rights of private citizens. Maintain an orderly environment that facilitates proper functioning of markets. That's the pillars. To extend which of these pillars operate, distinguish various forms of capitalism. And free markets, also called laissez-faire economics. Markets operate with little or no regulation. In a mixed economy, such so-called, because of the blend of markets and government, and markets play a dominant role, but are regulated to a greater extent by government to correct markets failures, such as pollution, traffic congestion, and promotes social welfare for other reasons, such as the defense and public safety. Mixed capitalist economies predominate today. Many shades of capitalism. Economists classify capitalism as into different groups using various criteria. Capitalism, for example, can be simply sliced into two types based on how production is organized in a liberal market economies. The competitive market is a prevalent, and the bulk of the production process takes place in a decentralized manner, and akin to the free market capitalism seen in the United States and the United Kingdom. Coordinated market economies, on the other hand, exchange private information through non-market institutions such as unions and business and associations, as in Germany and Japan, which is facts. Hale and Sokis 2001. That's what they were saying. Okay. Most recently, economists have identified four types of capitalism distinguished according to its role to the entrepreneurship. The process of starting business is driving the innovation and the institutional setting in which new ideas are put into place to spur economic growth. Walmart, Linen and Skin. Okay, that's in the language. Okay. In a state guided capitalism, and the government decides which sectors will grow, intentionally motivated by a desire to foster growth. This type of capitalism has several pitfalls: excessive investment, picking the wrong winners, susceptibility to the corruption, and the difficulty withdrawing support when it is no longer appropriate. Oligarch capitalism is oriented towards the protecting and enriching a very narrow fraction of the population. Economic growth is not a central objective, and countries with this variety have a great deal of inequality and corruption. The big firm capitalism takes advantage of economies of a scale. This type is important for the mass production and products Entrepreneurial capitalism produces breakthroughs like the automobile, telephone, and computer. And these innovations are usually product of individuals and new firms. However, it takes a big firms to mass produce a market news products. So a mix of big firm and entrepreneurial capitalism seems best. This is the kind that characteristic of the United States more than any other country. We talk about the Keynesian critic. We talked about that in its economics and it forces. So we ain't gonna get into that. Y'all know about that. So I'll give y'all the link to this as well. And yeah, because I ain't gonna get into Keynesian economics. That's a whole nother piece. We'll get into that another, you know what I'm saying? And I know this is kind of rather boring to the most few, but most people be like, say, what the fuck is this nigga talking about? He talk about capitalism. But you know what I'm saying? Well, we're gonna get down to it. So that was that. And Bernie's not a socialist, America's not capitalist. I ain't gonna get into that weak shit. Uh let's see. 4 types of capitalism: free market, social market, state, and corporate capitalism. Okay. 123 thephone.com. Talk about the 4 types. And it's just what it is. Okay. Oh. Oh, it's one of those. Oh shit. Let me see that for a minute. Yeah, it's one of those 4 types, but we was gonna read that, but damn. Always something with this damn phone. All right, fuck it. I'm gonna do something real quick. Does pure capitalism exist in America? Entire fetching for links. America's capitalist economy. Show you a picture of George Washington. Thoughtcode.com. This might be a good one. Talking about 2020. So it is what it is. It is what it ain't. So we're gonna get it right quick. Damn. Damn shit acting up. That's what happens when you have a cell phone that's old and raggedy. Let me get y'all for a second. Let me get this bullshit right now. Cause this ain't gonna happen tomorrow. I'm gonna make sure. I'm damn sure it ain't gonna happen tomorrow. This ain't gonna happen tomorrow. I'm gonna skim through it. I'm gonna impress y'all tomorrow. I don't care what niggas say. I'm gonna do the talking, reporting. You gonna have that shit. In every economic system, entrepreneurs and managers bring together natural resource labor. So we're talking about America's capitalist economy. So we're reading. This is by Mike Mafiat, updated on January 27, 2020. That was 2 years ago. So yeah, it's been 2 years since this article came out. And he wrote this. But way different elements are organized and used also reflects the nation's political ideals and culture. The United States is often described as a capitalist economy, a term coined by the 19th century German economist and social theorist Karl Marx to describe a system in which a small group of people who control large amounts of money or capital make the most important economic decisions. Marx contrasts capitalist economies to socialist ones, which vest more power in the political system. Marx and his followers believed that capitalist economies concentrate power in the hands of the wealthy business people who aim mainly to maximize profits. Socialist economies, on the other hand, would be more likely to feature greater control by government, which tends to put political aims a more equal distributions of society's resources, for instance, ahead of profits. Does pure capitalism exist in the United States? While those categories, though oversimplified, have elements of truth to them, but they are far less relevant today. Far less relevant today. We're gonna read this part. Let's read that again from the top. With those categories, though oversimplified, having elements of the truth to them, they have they are far less relevant today. Okay. If the pure capitalism described by Marx, okay, Marx ever existed, it has long since disappeared, and governments in the United States and many other countries have intervened in their economies to limit concentrations of power, address many of the social problems associated with unchecked private commercial interests as a result. The American economy is perhaps the better described as mixed economy, with the government playing an important role along with the private enterprise. Although Americans often disagree about exactly where to draw the line between their beliefs in both free enterprise and government management, the mixed economy they have developed has been remarkable successful. This article is adopted by from the outline of the United States economy by Conte and Carr, and has been adopted with permission from the United States Department of State. Cite this article. So that's their article, Cove, and it's a short article and a read, but yeah, this is one of the things that you could see in so many words. So we're gonna put this in the chat real quick. Oh, what's going on? All hail, Great Skull Degenerate. What's going on, man? What's going on? Peace, 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 boy, peace. So we gotta have this real quick in this discussion. So this is a Wednesday stream. There will be a part two to this. We're gonna go in depth on this even more. Um, I might not do it next week, but the next week after, probably next month. I'll probably talk about it next month extensively. And I'm gonna bring out this same video. I already cite the sources of it. So we're gonna get it done immediately and things like that nature. So we already know where we stand on things in so many words. So as you can tell, and that's just how it is. So again, yeah. Good evening. Good evening. What's going on, Shonda? Yeah, it's been a rocky road. So when we talk about capitalism in its purest form, and we're gonna get in this right quick. I had to get my interface out for this one. Yeah, I'm gonna get this one underway. The United States capitalist country, Brookings, things like that. Rethinking of the future of capitalism. Okay, let's see what this one says. We'll see this article right here. Mckenzie and Company. Rethinking of the future of capitalism. Let me see. Accept all cookies. I don't care what y'all say. Okay. American capitalism has evolved time and again, and we may be poised for another such shift. Will the future of capitalism involve tweaks, reforms, wholesale, and change? Oh, wow. Oh, I like this article. I might give y'all this one. Hold on. I may give y'all this one. I like this article. Capitalism has contributed to significant gains in economic growth and prosperity through its history, but it's time to grow public This this content about rising the inequality. Let me turn my gain up a little bit. And economy growth and prosperity through its history, but a time to grow in public discounted about rising inequality, heightening competition for economies with different models and existential threats, including from climate change, capitalism in its current form, and American capitalism is particularly may face its most serious test. Talk of change have already begun prior to C-19 pandemic, at a time when many are feeling the left being behind by globalization. That's what most people think. It's a combination of both sides, really. The impact technology and other trends to inequality has risen. Critiques of capitalism in its current form have grown louder, but the calls for reform, which range from tweaks to the wholesale change, have come not only from economists but also from business and leaders. For example, the United States Business Roundtable represents the CEOs of America's largest corporations in 2019 redefined purpose of corporations as going beyond serving a shareholders to uh, commitments to all stakeholders, promoting an economic and that serves all Americans. The pandemic has shone a harsh spotlight on challenges both old and new facing the American model of capitalism. Police makers from across the political spectrum and the business leaders, as well as leaders of the multilateral institutions, have come for the moves and towards greater inclusiveness, resilience, and fairness. Okay. Evolution of American capitalism will not be new. Indeed, capitalism has evolved in keeping with the changing nature of the economic itself, including the role of capital, labor, and trade, monetary policies, charging ideas of the political, economic, neoliberal model of capitalism present in the United States today, and to varying degrees in other Western economies, was shaped in 1960s and 1970s, commonly cited as defining moment for the shift was Milton's Friedman's 1970s article for the New York Times, which he argued that the social responsibility of business is to increase its profits. This is itself was moved away from the Keynesian economics, which emerged in the standard model in the advanced economies after the Great Depression of the 1930s. Today, we may be poised for another such shift in American capitalism faces the questions of the nature and the degree of the change necessary to ensure growth, prosperity for all the 21st century. What follows its brief recap of the strength and the challenges, while by no means comprehensive, it serves to frame some key questions ahead. GDP per capita has more than doubled over the past 50 years. Who personally consumption expenditure has almost tripled, and there has been a significant improvements in the longevity and leisure. Okay. So yeah, I'm not gonna subscribe to the newsletter yet. Okay, American capitalism has delivered unmatched growth and prosperity. Americans' brand of capitalism, the version that has been placed the past half century or so, has delivered unmatched economy growth and prosperity. GDP per capita has more than doubled over the past 50 years, while the personal consumption expenditure per capita has almost tripled, and there has been significant improvements in the longevity and leisure to the privately sector, large, small business entrepreneurship. It is the center of America's model of capitalism. In the forthcoming paper, we catalog and the contributions that the private sector has made to American economy. Economic growth and prosperity. They include a fourfold increase in the domestic business and the contribution to the U.S. GDP and per capita. Even in the domestic business have declined from about 85% to 75% of the net national income. Now, agricultural businesses actually accounts for 71% of the value added of the United States economy, excluding real estate, and 64% of the employed labor income. As an economic engines, business accounts for 83% of the United States technology investment, 76% of R&D investment, and 81% of the labor productivity growth in the 21st century. American capitalism has flourished by providing incentives for innovation and bold risk taking by entrepreneurs and investors. It has fueled competitive markets from which the innovations with the best market fit merge and succeed, and has created mechanisms for capital formations and investments to underwrite, commercialize, and scale to the best ideas and the proper growth of the most successful companies. In the addition to the finance and innovation in the private sector, large capital markets have been effective partners to the government in moments of crisis and company distress. Has been evident in C-19 pandemic by scaling down and eliminating unsuccessful ideas in companies. American capitalism has enabled a process of creative destruction and business Dionism unparalleled in large economies, including those who capitalist models. Although the growth slowed in the first 20 years of the 21st century, American model of capitalism has continued to lead the global economy, while U.S. and real GDP growth has averaged just above 2%. It has outperformed the six other advanced economies of the G7, but the nations continues to lead the world's investment in research and development in many breakthroughs fueling the 21st century growth. From digitalization and artificial intelligence to innovations in the life science and have emerged for the ecosystem, and American firms rank among the most widely known and the most profitably global in economic profit. They make up 38% of the top 10% of firms and two-thirds of the top 1% firms globally. But the benefits of the United States model that has not only accused the American economy and people, but have spanned around the world through the competition, trade, investment, and proliferation of globally relevant innovations in areas in technology, the medicines and financial capital markets, as well as manage in business and model innovations and rapid economic growth in emerging economies during the past 30 years has lifted a billion people out of poverty. This growth is the prosperity is in large part due to the effects of the trade and participation in the global economy, in which the American model and its related to institutions, economic systems have played a central role. For the participants in the American model, outcomes over the past 20 years has been positive for innovators, entrepreneurs, and investors. The most innovative, fast growing, and often large companies, and the high skilled, high wages workers in the cities and the dynamic hubs where such of its activity has been taking place. Returns on investment and wealth accumulation and income growth and arid and over standard living in individuals have continued to rise and the accelerated. However, the rest of society, roughly the bottom three quintiles by income, which include about 150 million adults in the United States. The results in the past 20 years have been mixed, as we describe in the next section, and the effects of C-19 pandemic have worsened those outcomes for many. Okay, for about 150 million adults in the United States, the results have been mixed, and the effects of C-19 have worsened those outcomes for many. Now more than ever, the American model faces growing challenges, especially deteriorating outcomes and prospects for many individuals. Okay, we're gonna stop in right here and talk about that. We're getting to the heart of the citizens right quick. So we just here and it's an hour. What's going on, Lady Love? What's going on? Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Not a problem. Not a problem. Appreciate you. Oh, you sent me an article. Hold on. Dude, I can't read that. I don't know why you sent that link. I don't think you can send a link, bro. But yeah, anyways, but we're talking about the things that what capitalism is and things like that. So in that nature, so one thing I can say about it is one of those things that you can just realize that most things it has its times or whatever. So yeah, people are struggling out here long term. So this is a good article and things like that. I'm gonna read this for, it's an hour in, so I don't know if I'm gonna open this up or whatever because I'll think about it. People ask for because nobody's not interested right now. But yeah, it's an hour in because I'm dropping little links for y'all because there will be a part two to this. I might have to cover some of it again and use this stream for part one and things like that. So we're gonna touch on some things. We're gonna touch on it. So that's just one thing. That's just how we're gonna look at it. So as we can tell, and that's just what it is in so many words. So we just got to keep it moving and things like that and clarity. And yeah, man, yeah. So I couldn't read old boy's little message. He can't send no link. Okay, so more than ever, the American model faces growing challenges, especially deteriorating outcomes and prospects for many individuals. Several challenges facing capitalism has become increasingly apparent in recent decades. Some come from within the system itself, others from intrinsic challenges it must grapple with. Most have been brought into sharp relief during the C-19 pandemic. Many of the challenges we highlighted are generally the case found in most advanced economies, but particularly in the United States. Yeah, we're in the US, okay? Unequal, increasingly des- desperate outcomes for people and places. While inequality between countries have decreased, inequality within countries have increased. Most acutely in the United States, economic mobility has slowed. The middle class has been much celebrated as a critical to the American economy, has been especially squeezed, declining over the past half century from 61% of American households to 52%. A primary source of this inequality is a fundamental change in the United States economy from driven by manufacturing to one driven by service and consumption, which has reduced that income available to workers. This inexorable shift is unlikely to reverse itself. The inequality outcomes for individuals and households over the past 20 years become clearer when it considered through the lens of the individuals as workers, consumes, and savers, as we outlined in research earlier this year on the evolving social contract. For the workers, average wages in the United States grew about only 0.9% annually from 2000 to 2019. Labor market polarizations toward high and low wage employment, eliminating 1 million middle wage American jobs. Median wages for middle wage jobs grew about just 1.1% over that time, while the median wages for high skilled and low skilled workers grew fast at 7.3% and 5.3%, respectively. Labor share of national income has continued to decline, and wages have lagged behind productivity and growth. And despite overall gains in employment and an expansion of income earning opportunities before the pandemic, most of the jobs created have been in lower wage occupations. Opportunities. Before the pandemic, most of the jobs created that have been lower wage occupations, often the the service sector. Further, most of the employment gains have been driven by the alternative work arrangements and part-time work, increasing jobs and income fragility. Consumers have benefited from the improved access to lower prices for this discretionary goods, especially traded goods such as electronics, appliances, furniture, but rising prices of basic goods such as housing, healthcare, and education, which make up a large share of the consumption for low income households, has outpaced inflation, eating up 54% of any gains in income. Over the last 20 years, for the average U.S. household savings rates have fallen at the time when individuals have saved for long retirements and assumed greater responsibility for saving. Almost half of the individuals in the United States over the age of 15 do not save for old age last year. And I already know why they're not saving old age, because most of them rather die in the ground in those areas. And that's like that in GA. As quiet as it's kept, it's like that in GA. I'm not gonna get into that. So we know about that. It's very common like that down here. But actually, GA is not bad. Most people think, but in those areas that's poor, they already assimilated. Yeah, that's why you don't see them living longer. Y'all get out of that damn street life. That's what this article is telling y'all. Many of the outcomes have come down the hardest on the particular groups of people. Yep. See, talking about the younger people. That's why I try to tell Art we can't save them. Half of them was going to be saved. The rest of them is going to perish. We already know that. This is a repeat of history all over again, just like the 20th century. Younger people are having a hard time finding a full-time employment. This is facts. Spending a large share of income on basic goods and services, and save less than other groups. While access to employment has improved substantially, women still are only paid 82 cents per dollar earned by men. And the racial wealth gap is especially pronounced in the United States. In the 2016, the wealth of the median, while white family, was 10 times higher than the other median black family, and the 7.5 time fives, and higher than the median Hispanic. I used to call brown people families. Such as differences persist even among college educational individuals. I don't use the term Hispanic on them. I just call them brown people, brown family. I don't like that term because some of them are half Spanish, but that's a whole nother topic. Ones I date Hispanics, people from Spain, not these people over here, because they mix with everything. So we can't say that. They can speak Spanish, I'll give them that, but you're not. I don't use the term Hispanic on them. I always call them brown or Latin people. I'm going to say Latin families. That's what I call them. Or brown people or brown Americans. I never call them Hispanic. Never. That's something they made up for them, but really it should be coined with the Spanish, but that's a whole nother. I'm sidebarring right now. Okay, which is kind of true right here. Geography matters too. I just said that earlier about GA and everywhere else. It matters. Depends on where you're at. More than 2/3 of the United States growth since 2007 has been concentrated in 25 cities and dynamic hubs, which is true, just like Atlanta. What else? Dallas, Houston. Well, actually, Dallas, Atlanta, the Bay Area, Chicago, New York. There's a lot of hubs in Brooklyn. I mentioned this before with that rapper named Cottonmouth. He said that they interviewed him, but the guy came in the shot, said there was a lot of growing factors. I remember 2007. That was that upheaval after Bush was about to leave. The election was next year with Obama and John McCain. Yeah, 07 was a great year. This is why I came on YouTube around this time. 07 was a good year. You should have hustled back then and had jobs. If you was my age back then, you could have had money. You could have had retirement right now. But most people ain't gonna get that because C-19 done killed everything. And it says with low growth, rural counties, which is true, when 77 million people had flat or falling employment growth even during the recovery from the last financial crisis. Research has highlighted wide geographic variations in intergenerational mobility, which is true. It did. Some people recovered from that shit in 08, 09 crisis. A lot of people, they found loopholes. There's a lot of drugs sold then. You see that now. But now it's abysmal now. Workers earn less than 40,000 per year, accounted for more than 80% of those vulnerable to layoffs, furloughs, and reductions in the hours of the income resulting from C19. A disappropriated share were women and people of color. Just, yeah, there's some truth to that. Okay. We're going to say Latino Americans. We ain't going to use the term Hispanic. I'll read this next part. The health economic effects of C19 pandemic are exacerbating their inequalities between people and between places, with many low incomes individuals either in high contact essential jobs with greater health risk or facing temporary or permanent unemployment, low wage workers earning less than 40,000 per year, accounting for more than 80% of workers vulnerable to layoffs, furloughs, reductions in hours or income. During the pandemic, disappropriated share were women and people of color. We just read on the side over here. Black and Latino Americans are overrepresented in the 9 of the 10 lowest paid high contact essential service, exposing them to greater health risk, which is factual. It's common like that down here in the South too. Addressing inequality in both social issue and economic issue, rising inequality in the medium term could contribute to reduce aggregated demand, and high income families typically spend a lower share of their income than the other groups. Economists and social science and also argue that inequalities of wealth, income, and consumption can harm economic growth in the long run by hindering educational opportunities, human capital formations, and intergenerational mobility. There are critical success factors for innovations and opportunities that the capitalist develop itself seek to propel. Okay. So how long is this article? Damn, it's a long article. Yeah, it's a long article. It's a long article. Okay. Okay, an increase in superstar effects. Yeah, this is a long article. This is for part 2. I'm gonna put this on libertarian. Yeah. We'll get that in a minute. We're gonna switch it. Yeah, we're gonna yeah, this is it's a long article. Yeah, this is basically what capitalism is. So we're gonna stop it right here. So we're gonna come back to it, increase in effects of, and this is the Mckenzie.com, but that's the article I'm reading. So I'm gonna give y'all a copy of this. So yeah, what's going on, Mike? Salute, salute, salute. Oh, people got bored with that. Hold on. Read what it said. Capitalize on ignorance of the lower social class, forcing the indigenous population into involuntary labor. Okay. He's talking about the indigenous labor. So that's the part that I was talking about in capitalism. And I think most people just look at it in capitalism. So yeah, this is gonna be a part 2 to this. So let me do something real quick. Let me do something real quick. Let me do something real quick. Let me create a new folder. Let me create a new folder. Yeah. There we go. Let's see. Capitalism. Yeah, capitalism. So we're going to talk about capitalism again. So we're going to stop the screen share and we're going to get back to that. We're going to read that part and it's a long read. So, but that's it for capitalism. This is like, yeah, it's been an hour, so things like that. But yeah, I had to talk about it. It's one of those systems that you deal with, and some people say it's evil or whatever. People have mixed feelings about it. As you can tell, most people just don't really care for it that much, and it's a mixed economy, as people say, which is true. And I've been hearing about capitalism for years, and some people took advantage, and people still think it's evil, but it still applies today. And a lot of people say they want to compete in a capitalist society. Well, you gotta have your own business and things like that. I've been hearing that shit for like the past 10 years and prior. Some people just want to deal with that. So yeah, I know people just not going to listen to it, when I'm reading and things like that. I'm just bringing out information and things like that. So, because it ain't that much in the room. So I already know what time it is. So, oh, damn. Thank y'all for the 10 likes. Shit. I can say about that much, but usually I don't do streams like these. Like capitalism, I had a couple people in the room talking about it. We talk about it a lot. So basically, I'm just not, used to Dylan talking about it as much. So y'all forgive me because everybody's spread out and things like that. So you got to remember everybody's moving around. But you know how inconsistent niggas are. But tomorrow's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun, and I'll be prepared. And I can't wait for tomorrow because I'll do some rearranging and shit. I'm just relaxed tonight and things like that. Niggas just want to be on some bullshit. So it is what it is, and it is what it ain't. So this is gonna be another one. Might have to see the replay of the independent thinking series. The Sunday Madness. I think I did pretty good. I think I did pretty good. But the series is like, yeah, I already know. So capitalism is one of those tricky topics that you get into and things like that. So I'm get prepared. I want to see what I got tomorrow. Let me see my ribbon. Yeah, let me look at this real quick. I'll address these things tomorrow. I saw some interesting shit last week. We're gonna talk about last week, what happened on the YouTube and things like that. This is gonna be the discussion. We'll bring out the evidence, what I observed. Those things we're gonna bring out on the DTNs. It's gonna be more of these. We're not gonna focus on a certain individual we like to roast on the advisor and things like that. We'll see him in passing, but we're not gonna use him a lot. We're not gonna use him a lot. I don't tell you that right now because I know he's emotional. He's not a part of this. One last time, and that's it. But we will talk about other individuals that he's trying to collab with that got exposed by Duke the Don. But we'll mention that tomorrow. What I mentioned about that Monday stream, and we're gonna talk about the news and things like that. So we're gonna basically make this a habit every Thursday. This is like a spring edition of the news, and then we're gonna have a news segment on the Thursday Thrills, and we're gonna add that. We're gonna add a screenshot feature when people try to act crazy. I have a couple screenshots what I'm talking about, and we're gonna talk about it messaging. So we'll get there. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna hold this up for a minute. I know people is not gonna be on the live stream acting crazy, so it is what it is. So yeah, I usually don't drop the link or anything, but if y'all have any questions, I put the links in the chat. But we will do a part 2 to this. I think it will be next month. But next week we'll talk about contractarianism again, part two. We're gonna talk about that because I don't know when the week's out. I gotta look at the calendar and shit. I'll talk about that next week. Do a part two on that. That's gonna be two parts. We're gonna talk about the social contract on that one because most people ain't gonna be interested in me talking about it. So yes, on the 30th, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it because we're on the 23rd. So yeah, next week is gonna be is what it is, because I think we're gonna get down on Sunday. So yeah, sorry, people get paid on the first and all that, but that's a whole nother. Yeah, I'm gonna do my shit. Yeah, April's here for, so April Fools is on a Friday. Interesting. April Fools is on a Friday. Yeah. So it is what it is. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, I put the links in the chat. So I know people are not into this conversation, but everybody knows about capitalism, things like that. There'll be a part two. There'll be a part two. So we're gonna do it and we're gonna be in function. So I'm not really tripping about individuals not liking what I'm saying and things like that. We're gonna be fine. So individuals is gonna be who they are. That's just how people are. Not worrying about individuals not liking me long term. It's not a popularity contest. So I know, oh yeah, someone dipped on me. That's cool. Just like I figured. And it is what it is. And you just got individuals like that. So they just show their hand every time. So yeah. Once you talk about real shit, they just want to leave you alone. It's usually the way it is. But that's okay. That's okay. That is okay. But tomorrow we're gonna have fun, man. We're gonna have fun. So, capitalism is what it is. And usually I don't drop links, but if y'all want to come up, that's fine. But just ask for it. And if y'all want to discuss about capitalism, that's things like that. What in the articles, if y'all got any links, things like that. But I ain't gonna hold y'all too long, but because it's been an hour, so we're gonna see if it's gonna be 2 hours. So we already know it's an hour in. Yep. Yeah, we gotta see what we got here. Let's see. But yeah, so we got an hour, so we talking about it. So one thing I learned about capitalism, man, they talk about the 16th century and 18th century Middle Ages. So we're gonna get it real quick. So I'm gonna drop this down a little bit. I'm gonna find world. We're gonna talk about it since they talk about centuries. Let's talk about the Moors and shit, money and economics and things like that. I wonder if he has a search. Damn, I missed the search engines. Oh shit. Hmm. So we talk about the centuries and just anthropology and things like that. Oh man. Yeah. So, it's just obviously, people ain't gonna come through and things like that. So I'm not expecting anything much. We're gonna talk about it, and it's just like, you know, I'm not even pressed by it. And people just like, oh man, this nigga talking about this shit. Yeah. So as I can tell, I'm just gonna talk for, just for the hour that I'm waiting on the next hour, and I'll shut it down the next hour because I know people ain't gonna come up or listen. It's one of those streams like that. But the next stream will be tomorrow. So I'll talk about the news and things like that, what's going on around YouTube and things like that. But tonight we're talking about capitalism. And I think I'm trying to find some pictures of 18th century, 19th century of the dark history. I don't know if it's the Renaissance period, the Dark Ages, and things like that. This period, it's not much, because I get into that much more. So the 16th century would be okay. 17th century shit. Okay. Let me show y'all a screenshot. Let me show y'all a screenshot. Let me show y'all a screenshot for a minute. I'm gonna show y'all something about the Pookie, not Pookie, but the Pucky family, the PCU, the Pucky family in Italy somewhere. This is around 16th century. Since we talk about capitalism, okay, we talk about like somewhere in Italy, and right here, the painted Pucky family coat of arms of the Palazzo Pucky, and it's in 1662. Azario Robert Pucky acquired the Feldendam Brassasino Bari, the Bari, for 40,000 and obtained the title Marquis of Barnisto. Yeah. So it's actually somewhere in Italy, somewhere in the Palazzo. This is 16th century to, I believe, 17th century or something like that. This is 16th century, that's 1500s. And then 17th century of the next century, they was talking about this stuff right here. So since we're talking about capitalism, because you had capitalist societies in those cultures, right? The Fagar family, because then you got the invaders and things like that. So yeah, it is what it is, and I give you the coat of arms and things like that. And this is around their time and others, conquests and things like that. So that's just a whole feel. But I'll give y'all the links to see the whole thing. That's just a little something, just to add on the philosophy basics. And we just keep it real like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing. Most people just don't look at it like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm just gonna put that in here, and I'm just gonna just stop the screen share and things like that. But yeah, that's just a little something for capitalism and things like that. Because I usually do these all the time because most people know about capitalism way more. So when you talk about laissez-faire capitalism and things like that nature, people's reading the articles and things like that. It's a long read for most people. Yeah, I got them for y'all if y'all want to read whatever. Because people don't even come to my political topics no more. But we'll do a system and do a replay of things, and we'll start talking and things like that. So we do what we have to, and that's just how we're gonna move forward with it. But like I said, most people are just gonna be, looking for options, what the future is gonna hold. So yeah, man. And that's just what it is. And that's just what it is. I mean, you have this all the time, so you know what you're getting into. I'm gonna pause right quick and I'll be right back. I'm back at it. Back at it. Back at it. Testing. Woo! Yeah, there we go. So, one thing I can say about, capitalism one more time. So, most people, when I was reading it, I was like, okay, this is going to be wild. Most people ain't going to be a student with it. This is how you notice, and that's just how you're just going to be with it. And I think when capitalism, when I first heard about it, I would say about when I studied history, I think it was about fourth grade. Fourth grade until probably till high school and learn the essence of capitalism. And I just like say, man, this is one of those systems that I've heard preached on television, books, and you name it. And some people just gonna put it out there and just say, hey, it is what it is. So we're gonna see what it is. Yeah, check my chat room for a minute. And chat room's still the same. So it is what it is. But yeah, it is. It's how you look at it in so many words. One thing I can say about capitalism in its purest form, you're just gonna have different differences of viewpoints, and that's just how it's gonna be. So when you have these things, it's just gonna be matter in seconds. So I get that people don't like the fact that if you talk about this subject, people gonna get emotional. Like you have an individual in the chat talking about the indigenous and things like that. Yeah, that's cool, nice man, but who cares about that? Y'all ain't gonna do anything. You feds wearing dudes don't even do nothing in life. Y'all just want to care about the UCC and people get mad and that's y'all, bro. We don't worry about that shit. A lot of y'all inconsistent. Y'all just worry about the wrong thing. And that's just how y'all get down. And that's how you gotta deal with it. That's how you gotta deal with it. So in so many words, I think people just look at it in different ways and they just like, yeah, that's just how you're gonna deal with it. So when you have people not dealing with capitalism as much, I know it's bad and it's hurting a lot of economies and things like that. And I think most people just like, man, I was like, how can I deal with this? And that's just how people are going to get down, right? And you got to look at it for certain reasons. And it's just, you just get with it. But I know people don't like the fact that I'm actually talking about it long term. It has its effects. So, what I today read in the articles, man, it's still the same. And I'll read this long article, probably play pieces of what I was saying. I don't know if I'm gonna play pieces of this stream, but I may. We talked about it part one and explaining because most people ain't gonna get the gist of it right away. It's a lot of emotions when people have different viewpoints and things like that. And he was talking about the indigenous. I mean, bruh, y'all ain't did nothing much since the UCC laws. Y'all need to explain the situations of how you're gonna move forward. I've been hearing a lot of FBA slash ADOS discussion slash on a certain channel, certain individuals praising he's Aboriginal, which is can be tested and fight and through information. But a lot of these dudes are fucking emotional. I used to be RBG. See, that's your fucking problem. Why you want to be a fez wearing nigga, claiming you're indigenous and shit like that, or Muslim, but have Turkish garb. But that's how y'all want to play. But y'all love them UCC laws, man. But what if I know? Yeah. I'm going to switch something real quick. I'll be right back. Hey, back at it again. Back at it again. Back at it again. So, basically, I'm just like, when you talk about capitalism again and again and again, it's cool. And it's just like people just want to be cool, man. But it's just what it is. And you just gotta look at it. But I'm just like talking about it so much. Some people just don't want to get into it. But there will be a part two to this, and we'll talk about it in extensively. What y'all think about capitalism? I know people ain't out in the audience, but what do y'all think about capitalism? Because capitalism, it has its pros and cons. I mean, yeah, it's not a good last longing system in so many words, but what's y'all's pros and cons about it? So, you know what I'm saying? But before, I go for the next hour, so I'll put the links in the chat. What's y'all pros and cons? Y'all can ask me a question because to me, what I've read and did the research, it says means of production, right? Social systems, laissez-faire, Marxism, and things like that. But most people won't talk about the racial aspect. We'll get into that. That's a whole nother. I'll do a part two on that. Like a lot of dudes are emotional on this thing, so I can't delve into it as much. People are just gonna get emotional. This is how they are, and I just know. I know people are just in and out, things like that. I'm not tripping. That's just part of society. You know. Usually, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to change some of this shit. I know people are pissed and doing things like that, but I'm sorry I do content the way I do. But this is my actual content right here. So, but if I do a part two, I'll read it again in different sources. I know people ain't gonna acknowledge that. So I know these are a lot tougher. So politics ain't everybody's favorite. So I already know. I ain't gonna talk about it much, but that's not their thing. But this is my thing. I'm sorry, but that's just who I am, bro. I don't like talking about it in open discussion. I'd rather do the research and then I talk about it and have a discussion. But some people like to see the replay, and that's cool. They're busy with things, and what I'm saying. But I don't have that audience, so you gotta understand. Y'all gotta forgive me because sometimes when you talk about this subject, this is very careful. They want to argue with the perspective of relationships, which is ass backwards. It's pretty good when we talked about it and discussed, and people don't want to debate about it. That's the problem with these folks. See, they talk all this bullshit, but I'm bringing you links and evidence, and people just don't want to talk about it. And that's the problem. I think people's distracted by the Ukraine and the Russia shit, and that's part of the problem. I think there is a capitalistic gain over that war. I mentioned this yesterday in the daylight savings time. All of it is capitalism. It's all about money. So they're gonna keep it standard, but the house ain't ready. It's big. It's big money and big business. And don't get me started about the military industrial complex. Y'all ain't even ready for that argument. So once again, we're distracted by the war over there. Online, they talk about the same old bullshit over and over again. So we got to look at it a certain way. You know what I'm saying? But you can't get mad what's going on. Like a lot of people pick and choose what they listen to and things like that. And so of course people ain't gonna like. So when I talk about this stuff, it's no participation because I used to talk about it a lot. And I did several streams and we talked about it. See, if we talk about conservatism all day, that's easy. I'm done talking about it. I already did many parts of it. It's no need, bro. Capitalism is just a whole nother feat. So I'm saying I'll do a part 2 to this, may do a part 3 if y'all want a discussion, because next month I will go in and all out. So y'all just better be ready. Uh Independent Thinking series, we're gonna work with that as well next month. And we're gonna keep it. I'll open it up around I'll say in May. I'll start opening the panels more and drop the link because some people want that conversation we can have. It's been a while because sometimes I usually do them by myself. I already improved that. I'm not trying to be an echo chamber. I just want the gist of the conversation. Some people just rather have something. So I know people are tired, but yeah, May is gonna be that first week of May. I'm not gonna do any content until that weekend. So you know what I'm saying? Y'all gotta forgive me, but I'm gonna make my rounds this summer. June, I'm gonna do a lot of content. I'll tell you that right now. Don't y'all worry. I'm gonna make a lot of content. Don't y'all fucking worry. So yeah, I'm making some capitalistic gains off of that. I'm capitalizing what I got on my content. But yeah, once we talk about capitalism in its part 2 phase, we'll be here. Some people just and we'll talk about that link where I just post y'all. I think what was it? What was it? This link right here. We'll get back to that. Um, I forget where we was at. Let me find it real quick. We'll talk about it. You know what? We could talk about that next week. We can talk about that next week. We'll talk about that next week. I'm gonna save contractarianism next month. I'll talk about that next month. I'll talk about capitalism next week. I will definitely talk about this next week since I got the link, Mckenzie and Company, and we're gonna just we're gonna skim through the things. We're gonna talk about this next week because I want to delve into something real quick. So since we're in the natural part, so we're going to talk about increasing superstar and effects. Some people want to talk about it right now. I'm going to wait on it because I started based on the philosophy basics, and we're going to break that all down. So yeah, I'll talk about that next week. I will put a part 2 for next week, and then we're going to extend it. Because since I'm doing DNTs and we're going to do that, the DTNs. I mean, the DTNs is just like the news and just talk about things with the things like that. So we're going to skim through. We're going to talk about things, what's going on YouTube and things like that nature. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the 2 hour mark to go in and come through and just be like, hey, we here. That's just what it is. So we're not worried about anybody. So yeah, that's capitalism in its purest form. So most people gonna look at it and be like, "Man, this dude ain't talking about much." I was like, "Yeah, but I got the information." So, and that's just how I'm gonna be. But and that's just how you see it right now. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not even worried about the next thing. You know what I'm saying? But when you have these things, it becomes, just paramount with you. So some people just gonna look at it and be like, all right, that's just the thing. So when you talk about capitalism in its highest form, you know things are changing. Things are changing. and a lot of people ain't gonna talk about it long term, things like that. So when I read that article, it's a long read, but I'm gonna stop it right there for the night because I'm gonna go 2 hours on this. Instead of going hours, it's gonna go 2 hours. I'm gonna cut it. A lot of people cut it for an hour, things like that. It's cool. I do hour streams on vlogs, but this one I'd rather go two because see if people pops in and pop through. Because basically, when you pop through, you know what you're doing. But yeah, it's bad out here. And mention the part when they said about low income areas. I'm gonna speak for the state I'm in. I see that a lot. A lot of people struggle. A lot of people perish away, and it's going to continue. It's a repeat of history. Certain people make it, some people don't. It's just what it is. I see that a lot before the pandemic and things like that. So people make excuses. Each year was bad. They should have took advantage over the years it was still around. So those years was something. Every year was something. Everybody should have took advantage of. That's part of capitalism. It's an evil system a little bit, but if you didn't take advantage in the state of GA, you're done. See, when they mentioned '07 from 2019, those were the years that you should have took advantage in the midst of it before 19 came around. That was the height of people getting their money. And this is where people got rich around this quadrant around here. See, around YouTube, around this time, people should have got their little views and subscription and money or monetization right here. That's what saved them in those misty years. See, the next year was worse. Everybody was isolated on the computer in the home and things like that. It fucked up everything. It was up for 2 years, and 2021 was the same fucking way. 2021 was kind of like my best year coming back. And I'll tell you why. And the reason I was doing this type of content as well, I was doing this also last year as well. Instead of the historical shit and then one of the D's, this went up left and right. So politics was much needed. That's just what capitalism is in its purest form. But people's focusing on the Ukrainians, and the Russian war. Well, the Ukrainians, I've heard, a reliable source, and I think my pops told me this. They use a Molotov cocktail bombs to blow up their tanks and taking their guns and actual way. A lot of people say they're not doing it, but they are. Quiet is kept in certain articles and things. Some people don't believe that, so they believe they're losing that way, and they try to say Russians are winning. Russians ain't really in the damn thing because Putin's on the cross of that table, fear for assassination. He's afraid if he's gonna get poisoned or not. He knows where Edward Snowden is and everything else is because I think shouts out to the advisor. He mentioned that if he reveals those secrets, he's in the embassy in China somewhere in Hong Kong in the Russian embassy, and then also Quaz is kept. He's got information on Trump and everything else. So that'd be very interesting what happens to him next month or 2 months from now. They say he's going to die in 3 months. I say 1 month. I'll say next month or 2 months. He ain't got that much time because they'll try to out him before then. Because see, tax season will be over in what, next month. So watch out for next month. And if you see him found dead, you already know Ukraine can win that war easily by the hands of the West. The West participated in this so they can become our ally. That's what's going to happen. And it's going to be some capital gain. They're going to try to take some jobs, come over here, and you're going to see in fluctuation of, to be honest with you, a lot of Ukrainians in the future. You're going to see a lot of Ukrainians in the state of Georgia. They're already here, but they got places in the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, like, DMV and things like that, New York. It's going to be a lot of them after that war. Watch. It's usually when you see countries that want to go against totalitarianism and fascism countries, they're going to go away. So you're going to see some big changes. That's just what it is. We'll see what the general talking about. Yeah, it's going to be some big changes. Yes, that's what's going on in the Edward Snowden. Yes, what's going on with Edward Snowden? Oh, not much, degenerate. Not much. He ain't spill out no beans. They trying to capture his ass, but he's basically they're trying to find him. to be honest with you. But Putin's got that information. That's why they're trying to get him up out of there. It's a lot of shit going on in this war between Ukraine and Russia. It's a lot of information and combination of a lot of things. Did my research on it. I was like, it's more than just the nukes and stuff. It's the information, that currency. We talked about the beginning of the stream, capitalism, and I believe that's the only part that you got to have. So basically, you see this a lot. So normally it's just not, conducive like that. So you basically see that a lot. So me talking about it is on its purest form. So yeah, I'm just like saying, look, they trying to find him and do whatever, and just like it is what it is. Because I know people's moving around and doing these things long term. So you see this a lot, and I see this a lot all the time. So I'm gonna give everybody a shout out because I'm about done with this stream because appreciate that everybody participated. But yeah, I'll talk about tomorrow's stream. So catch me, y'all check me out 5:30 Eastern. I'm gonna go in on certain individuals, and it's gonna start on the 40-minute mark. It's a new thing that from the Derelict News Network. We're gonna talk about the dereliction of the daily Thursday news. That's what this is about. It's gonna be some shots, some information shots, and super chats we're gonna talk about and explain people's conversations, and then we're gonna pass the next slide. It's like a little slideshow. It's gonna last for 40 minutes, and then we're going to an hour. We're gonna explain uh the Lapeef thing about the HBCUs Thursday. We're gonna report on that, and y'all gonna be interested with this avatars that I got. This is basically what we have. So yeah, it is what it is. That's just how it is. So that's that discussion. So you have this a lot. But yeah, I'm about to sign off. Appreciate everybody come through. Degenerate, all hell, Great Skull in the building. Shar, appreciate you. Who else came through? Mike, appreciate you. Shonda, as usual, known as Shonda H, appreciate you. Appreciate you coming by. I know you've been moving around. Lady Love, we appreciate you always, always, always. Old boy over here tripping about the indigenous. All right, man. You had a link, so I don't know if you want a discussion, but we ain't gonna argue. I was reading the article. Sometimes I ain't gonna read your shit. You just gotta forgive me. Psycho Candy, appreciate you. Yeah, I'm too busy reading my own shit. You have to understand that, bro. And Mike V, appreciate you for coming by. Appreciate you as always. So yeah, man, like it is what it is what it ain't. So I'm signing off because I know a lot of people are busy right now. So this is my hour mark, 2 hour mark, since I ain't gonna extend this for 3 hours because I know this is like a political session. But part 2 will be next week. I will schedule that sooner or later. So with that, be on the lookout for DTNs, the Daily Thursday News Network at 5:30 Eastern. I'll be signing off. Peace and shalom. All hail, Great Skull, and I'm out. Peace.